Several years ago, God allowed me to have a glimpse of what our words were capable of, the power they have to create and to destroy, not just others, but ourselves. I know I myself have used my words many times as a weapon and have also been the victim of others' words. None of us leave here guiltless or unscathed. This is just a short little fictional story that describes what our angry, hateful words look like in the spirit realm. It also gives a hint on how Satan uses our thoughts or ideas against us as dark rewards in his effort to train us into more deadly and violent weapons against ourselves and our fellow man. I hope it offers at the very least a distraction as we wait together for our Savior and hero, Jesus, the Mashiach. I begin. The darkness, undulating in serene, perfect bliss, flies effortlessly through the night, its grotesquely bloated form keeping an unconscious, almost invisible rhythm with the blissful music wafting up from the good work he'd been so clever in creating. Oh! The darkness pauses as an almost overwhelmingly beautiful note separates itself from the music, flowing past and even through the shadow. The note's pitch bringing a shiver of ecstasy over the rotting dead flesh of this shadow. Oh, it says how beautiful, perfect, perfect. It mutters in a constant stream of admiration and glee at its own perfection, its good work. The perfect, exquisite note draws it, pulling it without hurry, closer to the dark shadows of trees and wind, houses and roads beneath it. Slowly, with no desire to hurry, bloated, blissful. Why hurry, it says to itself. It has all the time in the world to enjoy the music created by his clever hands. As it draws near the light coming from the windows, he catches a glimpse inside. Oh, it crows in delight. It's that one again. Her music made every perfect note a blissful touch of pleasure as it passed through and around it. The shadow begins to hum to itself. The unconscious beat and rhythm of its hovering form becoming stronger and more pronounced as he transitions effortlessly from listener to conductor. Its prideful bliss excited him, welcomed him into joining her in song. It begins to sing, its voice perfect in its own ears, rolling out of him, his notes wafting around hers, blending, meeting, becoming one as their eyes meet through the glass. It peered eagerly at her, its eyes full of pride and simple joy at his creation. It picked up its baton, no longer singing with her, but leading her. As the shadow entered the room and looked about, the contents birthed a smile of pure appreciation and enjoyment. Oh, it says to itself, how busy they were today! It slipped further into the room, absorbing all the details of the day. As the story began to unfold, the smile grew and grew, at last blooming into booming laughter as the shadow settled in to stay a while. Its eyes settled back on the little pet that sat rocking on the floor. She was coming along so well in her training, he gloated to himself. Their eyes locked, the shadow's eyes serene, firm and bright in its dominance. The music coming from her mouth shot up several degrees in pitch and power as her eyes rolled about, long maddened, the savage desperation in them honed by the years held hostage by the agonizing torture relentlessly applied by the shadow hovering above her, inside her, and around her. The muscles about her face were long rigored and set in helpless paralysis, the cells unbending and locked into the most pleasing and ghastly mockery of love, happiness, and warm humor. Only the eyes still held movement, but just barely. The rolling madness you see when a cow is knocked down in a secret dark place at the heart of the slaughterhouse had been relentlessly stifled and smothered until finally it was just a minute tick, and to the ones lolling about in the darkness waiting with her, an undetectable tremor. How good his work! The shadow shouted to himself gleefully, clapping its remaining fingers together in celebration. The tremor in those peaceful eyes stilled. becoming perfect and most winsome, it admired. The music of her screams built in power, ripping from her throat in a celebration of blood mist and saliva. The last sigh of defiance. That defiant blood misted the serene, trendy walls that hid her shame and helplessness from the screaming lunacy of her neighbors. Good people, nice, helpful as any would want in a neighbor. But they didn't hear anything or notice. They were busy going about their own day, their own good work. Their screams wafted and wandered, sometimes meeting with hers, sometimes around like dancers made of smoke, then would wander around and up, their music blending with billions of other screams, a silent, thunderous melody that brought tears of appreciation to eyes that were no longer perfectly round. The left drooped slightly, and the right had begun to fall in upon itself. But the music went on. This perfect orchestra of agony that the shadow had built. Oh, it whispered under its breath, what beautiful, beautiful perfection you have created. His whispers wandered around her ears, the screams of rebellion and defiance slowly dying, drying up until only half-whispered sobs could be heard. A last half-breath escaped her lips as exhaustion settled in its place. She paused, her eyes at long last perfectly still and at rest. Then she began her good work of the day, bending over, savagely biting the body held captive under her hands, hard, deep, and savage, faster and wilder, uncontrollable and vicious, the intensity and flow of them building as the music had earlier. Her teeth flew over the body trapped beneath her good work blooming and dripping about them. You stupid, worthless bitch, won't you ever get your shit together? The darkness whispered softly, almost gently. She nodded at the gift of approval given in her ear, busy about her own good work. So busy, in fact, that she could not decide or finish the thought that had been teasing about and fluttering through the endless, rolling agony in her mind. Was it his lifeblood or her own that tasted so sweet? The shadow grinned to itself and lifted up into the atmosphere in its languid, unhurried way, never seeing the brilliant light of the sun rising from the east, nor feeling the warmth of the healing carried in his wings on its own rotting dead flesh. Satan didn't feel anything because God, in his furious vengeance, had smote him so hard and so fast he didn't even know he was already in hell. I guess Satan had done messed around and found out. Nobody messes with God's kids.